Hello and welcome to H&D Abroad. I am Dee. I am so glad to share World Brain Day, which is July 22nd. This channel is all about moving abroad, travel, and all the things that give you the best life and lived experience for you. Because our channel talks about moving abroad as a plan A. So that includes choosing a healthier lifestyle and creating generational wealth. You all know that during the week, I'm talking about self-care. On the weekends, we're talking the couple stuff. So I hope that you are joining today because you want to know more about attention deficit disorder, about how to give way to the things that your brain needs to be healthy. This is a issue that is close to my heart, not just because of its capturing attention deficit disorder, but also we're seeing life and other environmental issues also impact our brain health, like our risk of stroke, our elevated risk as African Americans and as women for things like high blood pressure. So, yeah, choosing a lifestyle that helps you to and supports your choice to embrace a healthy lifestyle is what we talk about, and we share our personal stories. And I have partnered with two channels today that I will introduce. But first of all, I want to welcome those who are joining us live. Please make sure you announce yourself in the chat, but also if you're joining us on the replay, hashtag replay, let us know where you're joining us from and how this issue is important to you. So I want to say thank you to LaShawn for joining us today, and I'm going to bring her into the room. Hey, hey.
Hi.
So this conversation started because I was like, I was just diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, inattentive type, 12 years ago. We'll talk and share our individual stories, but I was really surprised that the ADHD space for Black women was not populated with a lot of information because on top of just being neurodivergent, like there's social and stigma and cultural and things in Black culture that have really not allowed us to access support, treatment, or even exploring um, what we might consider to be that child that need to sit somewhere. And why can't they focus? You need to just learn how to focus. I keep saying, if I knew how to do that, don't you think I would? I don't want you having to tell me that.
Thank you.
ADHD shows up in so many different ways in our lives through childhood, but it does not go away in adulthood. That is definitely one myth, and we'll probably address quite a few myths during this conversation. So I want to introduce LaShawn and have her talk a little bit about her channel and what brings her into this space.
Hi, everybody. My name is LaShawn. I'm known as ADHD Cutie, all on social media. My channel is all about ADHD in adults, specifically Black women, single moms of ADHD children who may or may not be aware that they also have ADHD, because ADHD is highly, highly hereditary. And even if you're really doing the thing at your job or in a position that you're in, that doesn't mean that you don't have it. If your child has it, 9 times out of 10, you've got it. You're probably struggling at home. You're probably struggling with keeping everything organized or even just getting the laundry done, stuff like that. Those are
Amen.
all signs and symptoms of ADHD, which really boil down to our executive function skills. And my channel helps Black women, single mothers, to understand that. They really need to understand what ADHD is and what it's not, and how their brain works differently, not defectively. It's
Mhm.
just differently. We process different. We think, act, and feel differently. That's it. We can do everything that everybody does. It has to be explained differently in a way that makes sense to our brain.
Mhm. Mhm. And I almost call some of the I've learned to claim some of the aspects of the attention deficit disorder as actually my superpowers. So I really want to lean into how um, framing the if you're blessed with being able to be diagnosed or begin to recognize "Hey, some of these issues really are showing up in my life, then how can I capitalize on them, find work a way that I work that's complementary to my brain function, careers that really allow me to lean into the skill set that I have, but also how do I raise my hand when I need support? And how do I support my family members in kind of understanding my needs, but also that I can't just stay where I am, that I can build skills because I built them. I mean, even before I knew I had attention deficit disorder, things like writing things down, keeping a calendar weren't just nice to haves. They are a
Ethnicities.
huge part of helping me to stay engaged in a way that I feel confident, that I feel good about. And, you can look at the history of this country, artists, musicians, politicians. There are a lot of people that have attention deficit disorder
Mhm.
that are what we might classify as highly functioning that you may not know. I feel like I know the telltale signs.
Yes. Yes.
But, we're out here to support each other. But the move abroad lifestyle, the idea of incorporating travel, well, that is actually necessary. How do
Mhm.
you feel about that?
I absolutely agree. Just the little traveling that I've done throughout the US, I haven't gone abroad yet, but just traveling here in the States has just been absolutely amazing for me because for our ADHD brains, it gives us that new and shiny, something different. We get to pick and choose where we want to go. So we're doing the things we like or love. We're either pet sitting or house sitting or just on vacation. So it's something that's interesting to us. It's engaging our brains, which our ADHD brains need. We thrive on that. We have to have it. And if we don't, we create it somehow. And it's not always a good thing when we create it on our own. Traveling gives you that. Excuse
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hear that you all can hear some of the echo, so I apologize. I do not have an extra device. It may be my camera today, so I apologize. I am I'm on a house sit, y'all, and we had hail, so if the internet is getting in our way, I hope it doesn't, interrupt the conversation, so thank you guys for sticking with us on that. Um, So, yeah, I want to put this forward that's in the chat. So, age is not a barrier
It's not.
to
They
this.
just missed it. They just missed it when you were a child. They
Yeah.
missed it all through your adulthood because especially if she's thriving all this time, it was either overlooked, dismissed, or missed altogether.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not. I think that there is a benefit, and I can just speak from my experience. There was a benefit to understanding through diagnoses what was
Mhm.
going on. Like, I just, okay, so we're about to shatter the first barrier. There is no such thing as normal. Stop saying it to yourself. Why can't I just be normal? I know I put in the description of this video, I think that we put ourselves in a box and we want to be the ideal norm. But the revelation that I don't choose to not remember your name or to miss hearing that Outlook has dinged me for a meeting or to be so focused on the task in front of me that it
Mhm.
startles me when someone interrupts
Mhm.
the hyper focus that
Yeah.
I feel that I need to function. So,
Mhm.
those are ways that I think I can still see ADHD showing up in my life. But what I have been the most proud of is that the workplace is now identifying diverse individuals, and they are including that in accommodation request as well. So let's just get in the weeds. Tell me your path to understanding and to advocacy.
Okay. My path started when my son was born. He was born 2 months early. He weighed only 2.5 pounds, so he was considered a very low birth weight preemie.
Mhm,
Um, he was in the hospital for over a month, and when I finally was able to take him home, and I took him to his very first pediatric appointment, I was told then that because he was born so early and so underweight, that he would have some developmental issues.
mm,
And I would see either more or changes as he got older. And I actually did start seeing that just from him being a baby. You have executive function skills all throughout your life. We call them the developmental stages when you're a baby and a toddler.
mhm.
Those are your executive function skills that are developing as you're a baby, being able to, sit up, hold themselves up without support, being able to lift themselves up on their knees, being able to pull themselves up like on a couch or something, falling on their bottom. All of that is executive function skill. My baby wasn't able to do that. I had to physically show him how to fall on his bottom because he was just falling straight back like a tree,
Mm.
slamming his head all the time, and it freaked me out. So I'm calling the pediatrician. What's going on? Is there something wrong? Is he having a seizure or something? What's wrong? How does he not know how to fall on his butt? She was like, "You got to remember, he's not supposed to be here. He's 2 months early. His brain and his nervous system did not develop all the way." And anybody with a neurodivergent issue, especially ADHD, has to remember that your brain did not develop all the way. Your nervous system didn't develop all of the way. You can learn skills that you're lacking, but they're not going to just boom show up.
There's
So,
there's some extra there's
yeah,
some extra
you're going to
levels
have
of
to
learning, some
learning. Yes, you're going to have to
incremental
do,
skills. Yeah.
and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, repetition, repetition, repetition. That's what I'm saying about understanding the brain that we have. It functions differently. It works differently. Now, yeah, we can
Absolutely.
focus really good on some things, but those are things that are interesting to us that uh, have engaged our brain. If it's boring to us, if it's too monotonous, if it's too many steps, that's just yeah, our brain is like, no, no, we don't want to do that. We don't like that. So my channel is educating and bringing awareness, understanding, and empathy, all of that for the Black woman, single mom with ADHD, who probably doesn't know she has it, but she definitely has a child. If you look at your child, guarantee you'll say, "Oh, I do that." Mm. Well, they say that about me at work. Oh, and at home. Oh, I definitely do that. But we don't want to talk about it. You're this big CEO of a company or you're a supervisor of you don't want to tell anybody that you got ADHD. It's not a big deal anymore. It's not
Very,
that big dirty
very,
secret
very
it
true.
used to be. It's just not.
Par-
Especially when you know that there are ways that you can uh, retrain your brain, is what I like to say. Because that's what you're doing.
because we're talking about parenting, I want to make sure that I bring in Allum from our Exodus Life as well, because she and I have had the parenting an ADHD child and what it's like to be a parent with attention deficit disorder. And sometimes the concept of, I want to be there for my kids, I want to give them the focus that where they feel valued and heard. And it can be a challenge when you are
Yeah.
also in your brain and in your head.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
making that important parenting connection we talked about before. So Alan, did you want to introduce our Exodus Life and join the conversation around parenting?
Hello, can you hear me? Awesome. Thank you for having me, and I apologize for being late. Listen, Mexico is not on Central Standard Time. I learned something new today. So they don't follow the fallback. No matter how much research you do, your systems still fail. And that has to be okay also. But as far as like parenting and the child with potentially ADHD, because even in that regard, trying to get them diagnosed is difficult. When I took our youngest in, I think the diagnosis at the time is what they wanted to give Black children was oppositional defiance disorder. That was the number one thing that they give as far as a diagnosis. And so ADHD was just not something accessible. But I recognize in him some of the same things that I recognize in myself, my mother, my daughter, our oldest son, some of the same traits. There's like, okay, this seems like to be a generational thing. And I remember mentioning to my mom a few months ago, it's like telling her, I think I have ADHD. And she was like, what? And this is an immigrant mother, not really understanding what that means. And and I told her, I said, well, it's typically it runs in the family. And I said, so maybe. She's like, oh, you think it's from me? I'm like, absolutely. Because that, hyper focus on an activity can only stay focused for so long and then lose interest. I have that honest from my mother, like a direct link. I can look at her and say, oh, yeah, that's not a good idea. Because she wants to launch a new business to do something that's just random. And I'm like, no, I see where I'm getting it from.
LaShawn talked about how travel has been a part of giving herself um, giving herself back some of the things that she's needed. Alam, you talked to me about your career choice, um, where you were able to choose something that you could do well, but you worked for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked for a mortgage company for over 20 years. And I did it because that's what you're supposed to do. And that's what everyone tells you. You find a good job, you stay in that job, and you work it. So the idea of doing anything different just always escaped me because that's not what you're supposed to do. I'm like that person. It's like, this is what my mom says. You find a job, you stay there, you stay for the benefits, and you do that until retirement. And then, but it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I was, I guess you can, rebellious, I wouldn't say lashing out, but like being more vocal. I was definitely getting to a point in my career where I was just like, I just can't stand it anymore. It's that strong sense of justice. Like, I just can't keep my mouth shut. And if I have to be the one of three Black people in this company to say something, then I guess that's just going to be me. And what comes with that is the retaliation from people.
Team player.
Right. It's what they call pet to threat phenomenon, where Black women are held up, but as soon as you give them pushback, now you're pushed down. And that's what I experienced the last 6 months. And I was able to quit, which took a lot of planning. I can't do anything without a very concrete, detailed 6-month plan. And stumbled upon consulting. Literally stumbled upon it, and it worked out perfectly for me and how I want to work independently. And it removed that stress of office politics and relationships I don't actually want to maintain, but I have to because we all go to the break room at the same time. And so I have to do the niceties of, how was your day, Carol? And I don't really care, but I have to do that because that's what you're supposed to do when you're in the break room. I don't have to do that with consulting. I'm here to do a job, and then I log off.
Structuring your work environment, I think the pandemic gave way.
Oh, absolutely.
The pandemic gave way to getting out of the office politics.
Mm-hmm.
It gave way to that I could start at a time that really worked well for me. So I actually started getting up a little bit earlier and being able to take a break. But disclosing to an employer, disclosing, even to your partner, to your family. LaShawn, how did you, as you were navigating this space, learning that your son, might have developmental issues, that also, like what Allum was saying, was, maybe that means that something's happening with me. How did you internalize some of that and then start to look for ways that you could strengthen areas that you knew that you needed support in?
Well, as I was growing up, because I didn't know about my ADHD, school was pretty easy for me. Um, I grew up in the country in a foster family, so I had the outdoor, the nature, the getting plenty of exercise, the eating right. I had all of that going on. So symptoms didn't really show up. They didn't start showing up I until my foster mom passed away. She passed away
Mm.
right at the beginning of my senior year in high school. And that was that traumatic piece for me that just knocked everything out of whack. My entire life changed. Home environment, school, everything changed. And that's when I started noticing that I was struggling and my grades were starting to fall off. And I'm like, okay, well, what's happening to me? What's going on? And to me, I'm thinking I'm just grieving the loss of my foster mom, because to me, she was everything. She was everything. Um, Went to college for a couple of years, and I just couldn't do it. I hated it. I did it because I made her a promise that I would go to college, but I hated it. So I stopped, did a few jobs, didn't like them either. And I'm like, well, I gotta work, so I gotta figure out something. Um, Fast forward to age 36, that's when I had my son. Again, he was a preemie, 2 months early. And he did not come with any kind of manual, no owner's manual. He didn't come with any kind of SOJ, no standards of operation, nothing. Okay, I see all these books for babies, but there was nothing out there for preemie babies that were 2 pounds and 2 months early. Nothing. What I did learn, I learned from the nurses. Thank God, God really put everything in place for me because they gave me the information I needed, diapers, all kinds of stuff that I needed just to take him home
Mhm.
because none of the newborn stuff in the store fit a preemie. None of it. So like I said, I went to his first pediatric appointment, and they told me he would probably have some developmental delays. When he started kindergarten, the phone call started.
Mhm.
Like, we're having issues already in kindergarten? And they're like, yeah, well, he's just so busy. He can't seem to stay still. He's very disruptive. He's always talking. And of course, me as the black mama, we don't deal with that. You better sit your butt down and be quiet. And and it kept happening. I'm like, okay, something's going on. So his teacher, thank God, pulled me aside and she's like, I think your son may have ADHD. She said, I have it, and both of my kids have it, and they're both in elementary school. That is what happened throughout all his life. It's like God sent me these guardian angels to let me know this is what's going on. Get it checked. This is what's happening with him. Get it checked. This is what's happening with you. Get it checked. Don't ignore it. And so that's how I did. So that's how I kept up with his stuff. But it really threw me for a loop when I was in the school system, thinking that they would help me. Yeah, no, no. I didn't realize it was going to be a fight. And I mean a tooth and nail fight every semester,
Mhm.
not every year, every semester to get this boy some help. It wasn't until he started middle school that they actually put a 504 plan in place for him. I had tried all through elementary, and there was all these excuses of, well, we don't think he needs it, and he's a bright kid, and he can do it when he wants to, and da 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 da. I'm like, I found out one of the teachers, she had retired. They bought her back because there was a shortage of teachers. They bought her out of retirement, and she was keeping him inside because he kept missing assignments, or he wasn't finishing assignments, or he would do the work at home and forget to bring it in, all of that. That kept going on. So I was livid, but before I addressed her, I called the pediatrician. I was like, first, let me see if this is normal before I go off on this lady, because yeah, no, you're not gonna keep doing that to my kid. So the pediatrician, she hit the ceiling. She's like, no, he's ADHD. He needs that outside nature to get that energy out.
Mhm.
She said he's a young kid. He doesn't understand what's going on with him. More importantly, he doesn't know what to do with all that excess energy.
And what
He's
I
got
what
to,
I'm what I'm hearing you say, I don't know if you all have experienced this in your work life, that I will work longer. I will do a 10, 12-hour day because I feel like I need to sit in my seat and really try to get it done, but my brain is off. My brain is completely it just it stopped working at 6 o'clock. It's 10 p.m. and I'm still trying to press. I see a lot. I mean, now that you're talking about this, LaShawn, I'm 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 really surprised that a lot of the behaviors can continue and that sometimes even the work remote feeds into because normally, by 6 o'clock, I'm gonna have to shut my computer down because I gotta go eat.
Mhm.
So being able to find a way to work, a place to work, having a defined area that this is not your sleep area, it is your work area.
Right.
And having a start time and an end time, the structure that executive functioning
Yeah.
should do for us. We have to build those in. But I promise you, the move abroad journey, the travel, getting the travel bug, your motivation shifts. And you have to find a balance. All I really want to do is put my work down and focus on leaving. That's what that's what brings me joy. That brings me motivation.
Yeah.
So what I'm wanting to get to the core of is, as we look at self-care as Black women, as we look at having to be honest with the reality of, I gotta work. I have children who, at whatever level that they may be struggling, I want to provide them support. Where is the intersection for you all in choosing the lifestyle you want to have? Allum, where did you all? I mean, was there a pivot after deciding, hey, I can consult to, well, if I can own my work, then I can own where I live too?
For me, it was COVID. I mean, honestly, COVID, when we all started working from home, that completely shifted the dynamic of how I parented. It gave me space to deal with myself, and it gave me patience to, you know, attend to, only had one child at home at the time because the other two were adults. But it gave me the patience necessary because I didn't have the stress of that commute. I didn't have the stress of interacting with people I didn't want to interact with. I got to just be home, relaxed in my space, and just the one child, or be available for the other two when they needed me to be available. And then, once COVID was over and they decided, no, we want everyone to come back into the office, I was like, I don't think that's going to work for me. And I went into consulting. It even opened up the spectrum of what I could actually be doing. And I don't have to do it here in the States. Like, it really just like, oh, all this time I could have been abroad. I didn't know that. It was just this amazing aspect that it just never dawned on me. Even during COVID, I could have been abroad, but I'm a type of person that's like, well, they said you can't go, so you don't go. And it's like the rule breaking is not quite in. Yeah, I'm stuck sometimes. But it's just like, I could have been doing this. I could have been consulting. I worked at a mortgage company for over 20 years. And what I did was very specialized work, and no one else on my team did it. And I could have easily been consulting. And it was just like, I wasted so much time with those people when I could have been by myself, enjoying my time, logging on, do the work, log off. But it's a thing that I learned now, and I'm glad that taking the opportunity now to do it and to show my children that you can kind of do anything that you really want to do as soon as you get clarity around what it is you want to do.
I have found this is our busy time of year. I didn't intentionally strategize to house sit. This is not my house. It's already clean. I keep the areas that there's enough space to do the things. So laundry, you need to clean out that drawer. Those are
Mhm.
not my distractions. House sitting I was just like, this whole travel thing, y'all, we got to rethink this, because I'm in a place that is beautiful. I can take a 10-minute break, walk up the mountain, come back, get back to work. If you haven't considered how you can build a lifestyle, you don't have to move abroad. You don't have to, I can work anywhere in the US. So that's where, find where your opportunities are, that you can lean into a process that gives you that gives way to what you need. I think LaShawn, you said you're house sitting right now too. So how is house sitting helping your self-care, your mental health?
It helps tremendously, but make no mistake, it doesn't go away. It's not gone, it's still there. But what I have been able to do, because I do have the free time through house sitting, I have created books that I sell on Amazon to help keep me on track. Like I have a log that I've created just for pet sitters. I have one that I've created just for house sitters. I have a coloring book that I've created. I have travel and vacation planner that I've created, all on Amazon, that I've only done since I've been house sitting.
Mm.
But because like little things like the watering the plants, for instance, that's not a thing I've done. I've never done that. Not been big on plants. I made sure I didn't have any plants because I don't want to do that. But a lot of the houses that you have want you to water their plants. So I needed something in front of me to remind me, hey, it's gonna be turning brown in a minute. You need to water. You've been here about a week now. So I created these log books for me, but they're available to any pet and house sitters. If you know, because it helps to keep you on track. It helps to keep you focused. Um, just planning to go from one house sit to another, especially if there's a gap in between, can sometimes be overwhelming. So I have my logs for me. Put my house sit in the one log. If there's a gap, I put that because I usually go stay in an Airbnb or something like that. Put that in the vacation log, and then the next house sit goes again in the pet sitting log. So I have everything in front of me, and I keep those books with me at all times. That is how I have to stay straight. If it gets to be overwhelming, something's going on, I put on some music. I have to take a break because our ADHD brain doesn't have a pause button. We have to create one. For me, music does that. Music gives you that break, that pause. Take a breath. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Sometimes you got to count to 20. And that gives you that reset. But you have to calm your brain. That's the key for us. We have to calm our brain. And that's with anybody. The brain cannot think when it's upset, anxious, frustrated, scared, any of those emotions. It cannot think. It can't. It does the same, it has the same reactions that the body does: fight, flight, or freeze.
Mhm.
The brain does the same thing.
Allum, I'm going to tell you where my ADHD has shown up, unfortunately, the declutter process. Overwhelming. So literally, I have a box. I take the box out of the garage so that all I focus on is this box. It's either keep, give away, sell. And I have a big trash can next to me. Everything else is behind me. This is an area where I can see where I can get tripped up because you've got 50 boxes and there's look over there, look. So how did you, because you have completed the process? Yeah.
Completed or stored away some of the items that you just couldn't make a decision on. Something like that. So there are definitely boxes in our storage unit that have items I could not decide. And I just figured, you know what? There's space. I'm not going to stress about it. Just sweep it into a box, close it up. And eventually, when we go back, we'll look at it again and we'll say, why did I put this in storage? throw it away, or this is really useful, or give it to one of the kids. It'll be one of those things. And that's okay. It's like giving yourself grace to deal with the stuff when you're ready to deal with the stuff. But I know, like, when I was watching the video earlier about identity theft, and I was like, when I was going through all of our papers, I'm the family historian, and so all paper is important. The notes from the kids, the weird rocket ship that they drew that looks inappropriate, but it's there. It's all important pieces of information, and I keep everything. I have notes from my daughter's fifth grade teacher, on her uh, attendance and all this other stuff and her homework. And I'm like, why did I keep this? Because they don't want it, but I kept it. The kids don't want that stuff. The children really don't want that stuff, but I keep everything, paycheck stubs. And it was really hard to part with those memories because it was like the physical memory of my existence in that time. And it was difficult to part with some of those pieces. So some of that stuff I took a picture of just to remind myself of what was going on then. But I had to force myself to shred a lot of paper. I had to, I really had to force it. I had to okay, let me just rip this up. Now it's ripped. So now I have to shred it. So it was really difficult because I just find oh, this could be useful. Maybe this could be useful for some reason in the future. I could use it for something. Maybe 20 years from now, my grandkids might want to know how much I made in 1997, and I can show them the pay stubs. I don't think they would ever really want to know, but that's how I think about things.
We've been married 24 years. I have our first tax return. I have our first tax return together, and I have my first tax return.
I had those.
30 years. I've been filing taxes. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to audit me back to
the documents for old homes, the documents for old bills from, when you were a new 20 or something year old and forgot to pay something. And it's just like, why did I keep this forever? I don't care about this debt that I once owed. Just to remind myself, I used to have an Express credit card for some reason. Why did I keep this? I'm not even shopping and I'm not Express sizes. Why do I still have the credit card statement? And it's really difficult to declutter and get rid of those items when you start going through it, because now you're going down this rabbit hole of memories and oh, look at this. And, showing your children, look at what's going on. It's oh, I'll put it to the side. I'll keep it for later. And now you're created another pile of things that you still need to go through again.
When something happens, to bring that to a halt, for me, it was my job just got to be too much because I had suffered a near fatal car accident, and then on top of that, I lost my dad. And it's okay, well, we understand that, but can you still do your job? No, I can't still do my job. Did you not hear what I said? And so for that moment for me was the breaking point. I was like, okay, yeah, I got to find something else to do, find another job, because I was out of work for 3 months because of the accident. Everything changed at the job while I was gone. Everything. And I was like, I don't want to do this job anymore. I don't want to come in this building anymore. But especially after I lost my dad. And it was like everybody was just, we're just going on back to whatever we were doing. I can't. I can't. I can't. That's like two knockdowns right there, back to back. I can't. Plus, I have to deal with my son because he's just holding it all in. He's not showing any emotions. I don't know what's going to happen with him emotionally because a volcano eventually erupts. So I was trying to prep for that, but I just couldn't. When it was time to go back to work, I was going, but I was crying all the way there. Then I had to sit in the garage and just get myself together. I was like, Lord, please show me a way because I really don't want to do this anymore. I just don't. And for me, we would wait because he was in his senior year in high school by then. We were waiting for the announcement of when and what they were going to do for graduation.
Mhm.
When we got that announcement January 1st, to me, that was like the light bulb moment. Ding! We're going to move. We're not going to just move out of the house. We're moving back to Florida. That day, baby, I started packing up all the winter clothes, gave them to the Goodwill, started packing up his stuff that he's not using, my stuff. That was my motivation right there. I was done. I was done. We were done with his school. We were done with his job, but he had to keep, he had to keep going in school because I didn't want to give them any reason why he couldn't graduate. I'm like, we're at the
Mhm.
12th year. I wish they would. I wish they would.
Strong,
12th year, senior year, baby. Mm-mm. That was my
There's
strong.
motivation right
something
there.
there's something about when your child like gets close to like that milestone that triggers something because
Yes, it changed
that was
everything.
something that triggered because I was like, I'm gonna stay here waiting for the youngest to graduate high
Mm-hmm.
school. I'm gonna stay at this job. But when he
Mm-hmm.
graduates high school, you
You don't
know,
have that responsibility. Our
it
responsibilities change
yeah, it does.
once they graduate. They may not leave, but they're graduated. We don't have that same
Yeah, I mean, he's
responsibility
right
as
here. He's literally
right.
looking at me. They don't leave.
They don't leave. The responsibility is different because they're doing their thing with their
Right,
friends, or they're doing a job or going to college, and it's like, now what for me?
It's
right.
not just transition. I think it almost it's like a tipping point that if you listen to yourself, there are emotions that are
Mhm.
propelling you to a new lifestyle, especially when you start considering yourself, like centering that I have pressed with working these jobs so that I can give my family the life that we want or that I want to provide to them. Um, I think for me, I was in an age transition time where I said, "Mm-mm, I can't. My work cannot compete with my biological needs." I'm talking about menopause. I'm talking about the whole nine, y'all. And this gives me an opportunity to interject a little bit that I've learned about ADHD is hormonal changes the brain. So I had set up all these skills. When I had our daughter, I didn't understand the chemical changes that happen with the hormones of pregnancy.
Yep,
And
yep.
then we had 2 children very close together, and you're just trying to keep up with life,
Mm-hmm.
but also recognizing things like grief change the brain. And so when
Yep.
you're talking about an ADHD brain, grief is very, what do you call that, demotivating.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to the inner brain, the reptile brain, where you have just, I need to take care of basic needs. And when you recognize it for what it is, then y'all, menopause is my motivator. I'm just like, I need to finally say, stop, because my body, my brain needs something different. Now we're also learning about COVID. What is it called? Long term COVID and how that changes the brain. Y'all, please spend the self care time is your opportunity to sit with yourself and recognize what's happening in my body. What dissidence do I have in my brain? If I need to take a brief break on a budget, house sitting might be your thing just to get some clarity. You don't even realize that your body is resonating at such a high pitch. So the break time, whether that's a career break, a sabbatical, Take that PTO,
Yes.
what it's there
Not
for.
only take the PTO, but if your company offers short-term disability, take that too. If your company offers a leave of absence, take that also. Find you a doctor who will work with you and co-sign a necessary leave of absence. Because I took a 4-month leave of absence when I worked at the mortgage company, because it got really bad as far as like the retaliation. And I was feeling myself unmasking. And it wasn't the unmasking of a positive unmasking. It was going to be a negative unmasking. And, I was like, I went to my doctor and I told her, this is how I'm feeling. And she's like, every day you come in and you have to do this score sheet. And I can see you are overly stressed and depressed. You need to go ahead and take your leave. And I kept telling her, like, oh, well, it's not that bad. Even though I just told her that I was about to unmask negatively at work that I've been at for 20 years. And she was like, no, you really need to take leave. I'm like, no, it's not that bad, thinking that I can just keep going. And it was just one moment where, the person that was triggering me wanted to have a meeting. And I was like, oh yeah, that was going to be the meeting that I was going to go off. I'm taking my leave right now. It was like, he wanted them to have a one-on-one on a Monday. And I was like, oh yeah, I can't do that. Nope. Leave starts Monday. Yep. That was it. Leave starts Monday. It just like, it got to that boiler point where I was like, I could not do any more masking. I couldn't hold it down anymore. This was going to be a moment in which it was going to, at the time it was like World Star. It was going to be that moment. I knew it was. I could predict what was going to happen and I had to leave. And I took those 4 months and it was the best time I could have taken for myself, for my children during the time. Because I could tell I was really stressed out. I was like, you're masking at work, but then you're coming home and you're crying because you're so upset because you can't release whatever it is. And you have to deal with the people that are triggering you. And then now you have to come home to responsibilities. And it's just like layer upon layer upon layer. And that was that moment.
I want to make sure that we're going to do a round table of resources. Dr. Tracy Marks. If you all are not watching Dr. Tracy Marks, you need to be all up in there, because not only does she does not just talk about attention deficit disorder. I was hoping that she had put all of her executive function and she did a 3-part series on motivation and why that's important to people with attention deficit disorder and common myths. She does not have a playlist, but I did in the comments of this video put 2 videos, common myths about attention deficit disorder, but she also does a very good, concise description of what is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so that you can share it with a family member, with your child. I mean, I thought it was straightforward enough that I could share it with, our son that was 13, so he could kind of understand, mama not trying to pick you up late. Mama has to have timers. And if the timers don't go off or I forget to set them, then I am not attending to you in a way that helps you to feel safe and cared for. How to ADHD is another resource that is on YouTube. Let's see. So what is it like to be Black living with ADHD is a great video, but also ADHD in women. Y'all, to know that you are not alone in your struggle, that there are other people that are high functioning, but also living with attention deficit disorder. There's another video about a young lady. She is a PhD candidate. And that's kind of where I flamed out, was I'm I had advanced to candidacy, and I was just like, I can't mentally do it anymore. Don't get to that point. There are so many ways to understand who you are and lean into your positivity. But the TEDx talk is also in the description where it talks about, yes, Black women do have ADHD. So please get your tools. So we have shared several, whether that's moving abroad, traveling, house sitting, taking a sabbatical, tapping into those short-term disability and other breaks on your job. Your employee assistance program gives you access to those mental health professionals who can raise their hand and say, have you ever thought about taking some time off? If your company is that FMLA, that Family Medical Leave Act, includes some support for taking a break due to mental health, but also can connect you to qualified, all I can see is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So ADHD Cutie is our in-house resource for mamas, single moms, and parents. Any other resources and her books that are also in the description that are on Amazon, y'all. Go get your resources. Any others, LaShawn, that you wanted to share with the audience? Oh, hold on. There we go. Yes, her pet sitting resources. Yes.
Yeah.
Too cute.
And the coloring book. The coloring book. Yep.
Yeah. If you are not coloring for your mental health, you are
man.
totally missing out on something that requires focus and attention. You add a
Yes.
little calming music,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't take long to quiet or calm the brain. Allum, what are your resources?
I just wanted to add that I know we're talking about like ADHD, but I just wanted to add about autism as well. Because earlier, I know I put in the chat that I never really sat down to create a list for myself, like what traits or what things do I do that is on the neurodivergent spectrum, and are they ADHD or autism like aspect? And my autism list is extremely long. And so I just want to put out there that along with ADHD, there is autism, and Black women also fit within that realm as well. And I know there's this negative stigma that sometimes follows these diagnoses, but I think it's really important that we discuss both of them in the same breath.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of diagnoses in the realm of
Mm-hmm.
Neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So get the resources. I don't want anybody to walk away from this conversation saying, my childhood was traumatizing and I don't know how to process that. I don't know what to do with that. I have a child that I'm struggling to parent as someone living with attention deficit disorder, and I don't know how to support my child to understand it.
Right.
You can press. I was completely honest with our kids. Mommy struggles in these areas. It is not because I don't love you, but mommy struggles. And that when you are in the workplace, build your work life that complements the life you need. You can find careers that we are the idea people. Baby, I can come up with 1,000 ideas. I can what do you call that? Outline, all the things that need to be done. But if you want me to go from A to Z, I am not your girl. But I can put the scaffolding in place. I can see the big picture. These are real skills that you can use in cyber, that you can use as a consultant, that where you're solving a problem and not trying to put the whole pie together. you are worth the investment of being quiet with yourself and giving yourself those daily mental health breaks, brain breaks, and 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 also giving yourself the motivation to develop those executive function skills that LaShawn talked about early in our discussion. To learn more. That is what it means to live. If you're not learning, you are the best. You're the only person that's ever going to exist on this earth. Get to know yourself. It's kind of some hard truths to see in there, but give yourself the time. You're giving it to your employer 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Give yourself some of that time too.
And give yourself grace when you get into those hyper-focused activities that you decide to buy all of the, supplies for. It's okay. It
Crafting,
happens.
baby. Crafting. Crafting is my husband's like, you don't have any more sewing budget. Your sewing budget is now 0. So I thank you, LaShawn. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Uploading those videos, telling mamas you can do this with your babies. You can take care of yourself as a single mother. You are not out here alone. Thank you so much for creating that resource. Allum, if y'all have not watched her videos on decluttering, on letting go, on processing with your partner, a move abroad, as someone who has identified neurodivergent tendencies. Allum's your girl, our Exodus life. And you need a tribe. You can find your tribe. We are your tribe. If this content resonates with you, come back, share it, because that is what we are creating, is community. Black women are winning on multiple levels. Thank you for being with us today as we highlight the struggle and the joy that we're finding along the way. Thank you, guys. See you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.